No Maryland football this week, but it was still a busy weekend in College Park. Maryland women's soccer ended the season on a sour note, and men's soccer still has plenty of work to do to extend theirs. Maryland field hockey notches another big win, and volleyball continues its roller coaster ride of a season. All that and more coming up on the Left Bench.
Overall saw a lot of good things, and then things we can learn from film to be able to improve on.
For one server, the setter got on a good run. That's what can happen in big games. It's kind of a coin flip at that point.
Hello everyone, and welcome into the Left Bench, brought to you by Terrapin Sports Central. I'm Ricky Podgorski, joined alongside by Alexa Wootten, and there's been some huge news surrounding Maryland football's program this past weekend. It was reported Monday night that Maryland football's co-offensive coordinator Kevin Sumlin was charged with a DUI early Saturday morning in Tampa, Florida. Head coach Mike Loxley had his weekly press conference on Tuesday and said Sumlin is not with the team this week and will face disciplinary action. He then declined to comment on if Sumlin will return to the team this season.
Number 9 Maryland field hockey continued its dominance in conference play on Sunday. The Terps celebrated 8 seniors as they snuck past Indiana 2-1. On Senior Sunday, you can probably guess who started the scoring, a senior. Midway through the first quarter, Margot Long collected her 7th goal of the season, putting Maryland on the board. Onto the second half, and the Hoosiers got 3 penalty corners in a row, the first 2 defended by the Terps, including this one from freshman goalkeeper Alyssa Klobosco. But the third time is the charm. Sophia Roaboli Garcia put one in the back of the cage to even it up. Then it was Macy Bradford with a match winner, the freshman's 8th goal of the year. Here's head coach Missy Maharik on the surprising battle with the Hoosiers.
They came with very much of a mixed bag of zone and man-to-man, and I thought it was outstanding coaching and preparation, and they made it difficult for us. I think anything where you've got a ton of distractions and you've come off of a game like that, but I'd like to think that Maryland, thank God for the fact we worked our way out of it. We found the board a couple times.
Sunday's win is the 6th straight conference win for the Terps. The only other Big Ten team with more, number 1 ranked Northwestern.
Yeah, and the Wildcats host the Terps this week in each team's regular season finale. Eddie Calkins is in Studio B to break down how Maryland stacks with the top-ranked Wildcats. Eddie?
Yeah, Ricky and Alexa, these two teams are always atop the Big Ten standings, and this year's matchup is no different. Right now, Northwestern is ranked as the number 1 team in the country with 15 straight wins. The Wildcats only lost this season, its first game this season, to now 12th ranked Louisville. Captain Peyton Halsey leads the Wildcats with 29 points and 10 goals, including the game winner on Sunday against number 3 Rutgers. Senior goalkeeper Annabelle Skubish is 3rd in the country with an .857 save percentage. Who's first, you may ask? That would be Maryland freshman Alyssa Klobosco. Klobosco has an .881 save percentage, leading now number 7 Maryland to a 14-3 record with 7 straight wins. Now in total, the Terps hold a 19-13 advantage over the Wildcats, but Northwestern has only surrendered once in the past 6 matches, and 3 of those 6 matches took place last year. Let's take a look. In the first match between the two, 5th-year senior Bente Bakker struck first for the Wildcats on this penalty corner. Danny Van Rootselaar scored less than a minute later, tying the match at 1. In overtime, Van Rootselaar again, this time for the win. A month later, these two teams met in the Big Ten tournament semifinals. The Cats scored less than 5 minutes into the match. Peyton Halsey added another right before halftime, and that's all Northwestern would need to advance to the Big Ten championship. In the NCAA Final Four, it took 3 full quarters before we had a goal in the 3rd match. Then, the 5th-year senior. She hit the back of the net, she hit the back of the cage, and the Wildcats would clinch a spot in the national championship. And you may remember Northwestern would lose in that national championship match. Now, I mentioned Northwestern has dominated the Terps in the past 6 matches. In those matches, again, Maryland with only the 1 win. Northwestern, 2 goals a match, Maryland just over 1. Surprisingly, though, Maryland has outshot Northwestern and have more penalty corner inserts than Northwestern in those last 6 matches. The key metric, though, saves. Northwestern averaging over 2 more saves than Maryland, but as you remember, Maryland has the stellar freshman Alyssa Klobosco, who's been rock solid for them all season. So we'll see if they can be the difference maker the Terps need to finally get in the win column. Now, if the Terps can pull it off, there would be a potential 3-way tie atop the Big Ten standings, creating all sorts of chaos as the Big Ten tournament arrives. Now, Ricky, Alexa, The Terps will take that highly anticipated trip out to Lakeside Field on Thursday, and I'm sure you guys can agree, but we can say this is an emerging rivalry, right?
This is definitely a rivalry, but a little bit lopsided towards Northwestern, I feel like.
And I mean, it kind of mirrors women's lacrosse rivalry with Northwestern. You know, Maryland dominated for a long time, and recently Northwestern's kind of tipped the scale in their direction. Men's soccer was looking for its first win in conference play against Indiana on Friday night, but the Terps were once again plagued by their inability to finish chances. Sitting in last place in the Big Ten, Maryland desperately needed the win in this conference matchup, but a sluggish start left the Terps scoreless at the end of the first half. The Hoosiers quickly capitalized off a throw-in with a header marking the first goal of the game. But Maryland responded as Stephen Capetti finished across from outside the box, energizing the crowd and giving the Terps a newfound momentum. The Terps created opportunities late in the game, but it was Indiana that broke away and made the game-winning shot with 7 minutes left to play. Indiana takes the win 2-1.
Very, very frustrating result today. In the first half, we did not come out with the kind of menace, tenacity, and energy required to set the tone in a game of this importance. Came out much better in the second half, and I can surely say that we probably were the better team with the better chances in the second half. But once again, the same old story for us, that we come up a play short.
Maryland women's soccer went into Sunday's senior day matchup against Indiana, still searching for their first Big Ten win of the season. And spoiler alert, they didn't find it. The Maryland defense started off strong, but the 19th ranked Hoosiers offensive attack finally broke through with 16 minutes to go in the first half. Paige Weber opened up the scoring for Indiana, netting her 12th goal of the season. The Terps had a few chances near the end of the half, but weren't able to capitalize. Back-to-back penalties by the Terps set up Lauren Costello for her second goal of the season, giving Indiana a 2-0 lead and sealing the win for the Hoosiers. Here's head coach Megan Ryan-Nemser looking ahead to the future.
Just individual development first. You know, they come in August 1st, and like we have a scrimmage 4 days later, you know, and you got to figure out your starting lineup. You got to figure out relationships. You know, I think I'm starting to just now really understand everyone's strengths and weaknesses. So to have a full spring where you can teach them the little pieces of it and focus on what they need to do and what we need to do versus focusing on a Thursday, Sunday match is what excites me.
Maryland volleyball went into the Saturday night coming off a 4-game losing skid, but got back on track against Iowa. Maryland came out rolling, serving well with 4 aces to jump out to an early 6-1 lead. Iowa climbed back, but Maryland shut them down, cruising the rest of the way to take the first set 25-16. More of the same for Maryland in the second as the Terps pulled away to go up 2-0 on the Hawkeyes. The third set flipped the switch. Iowa's offense and Maryland errors led to Maryland dropping set 3. But Lily Gunter and Eva Robach had enough, leading the way in the fourth set, closing this one out 3-1 over Iowa. Here's head coach Adam Hughes on his team getting back on track.
We stayed with it. You know, I told them before, hey, if you're up, you still stay one ball at a time, and if you're down, you gotta stay one ball at a time. And you know, I thought they did a really good job there, getting us started in the fourth. And Erin Engel was really good again from the service line.
Maryland women's basketball is back on the hardwood, and boy, oh boy, did they show out in their opening exhibition match. To start the first, Maryland got to the line going 10 for 12 from the charity stripe. Then Brene Alexander got things started and, quite frankly, never looked back. 5 Terps scored in double figures, but freshman Riley Nelson led the way with 23 points in her debut. Maryland was all over the glass, snagging 61 boards. Domination was a current theme in this one, but how about defensively? Yup. The Terps forced 24 turnovers. Put it all together and you got a defining Maryland exhibition debut win as the Terps take down California PA 103-37. Here's Brenda Fries with more.
You know, just having 10 players overall, you know, being able to score for us. I thought they were really unselfish in their play. I like the fourth quarter, our highest, you know, points and defensively holding them to 5 points.
College basketball is well and truly back. After the break, we'll discuss the biggest storyline surrounding Maryland men's and women's basketball.
Ricky and I will jump over to Studio B for an in-depth look at the 2 programs after Media Day and more. Don't go anywhere.
There are 16 million children struggling with hunger in America. That's 1 in 5 daughters, sons, neighbors, and classmates who don't know where their next meal is coming from. Yet billions of pounds of good food go to waste every year. It's time we do something about it. Feeding America is a nationwide network of food banks that helps provide meals to millions of kids and families in need. Visit feedingamerica.org to help them feed even more. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
There's so many rewards in life. You coming into our home was one of the greatest rewards we could have ever had.
You know, it took 20 years, and I got my third child, who was 17 at the time.
It's so cool to watch the adult that you've become, and you really have done as much for us as you think we've done for you.
Welcome back, everyone, to Left Bench, brought to you by Terrapin Sports Central. I'm Ricky Podgorski. Alexa Wootten will take a stop by Studio B in just a bit, but right now we have to jump into Maryland men's basketball. Some familiar faces, new names, way too much to be excited for, but let's start with the leaders of this group. A few guys returning, but the three with the biggest impacts will be surefire starters: Juju Reese, Dante Scott, and Jameer Young. Reese is entering his junior season as the go-to big man, but it's Dante Scott and Jameer Young who are coming back for their fifth years and are prepped for breakout seasons. Young led the way in scoring last year, averaging 15.8 points per game. Scott was third on the team in scoring and second in rebounding. Here's why the two decided to return to College Park.
I wanted to graduate from a place that I started, and and this is a place I consider home. That people got my back, and when I was going through a tough time with my family, people really helped me out and really showed that this is just not something that you call family, because everybody can go to places, go to colleges and say, oh, this family, but when it really comes down to it and you in a tough time, you see who your family really is, and they really showed me the true colors. So.
Yeah, I would love being coached by Coach Willard. Year two under him, I feel like it would be great for me and Dante. The tempo that he plays at, the expectations that he has for us, I feel like that's going to take us to the next level, individually and collectively.
Like Jameer just said, this is the second year of the Kevin Willard era, but for a few guys, it's year one under Coach Willard, and those guys are the freshmen. We'll start with Deshaun Harris-Smith, a four-star out of Paul VI, the #1 player in Virginia. Harris-Smith is a big two-way threat who I believe will pair very well with Jameer Young in the backcourt. Jamie Kaiser and Jonathan Lamoth, two rooks to keep an eye on as well. Both can shoot lights out and are physical defensively. And finally, to round out the class, it's Braden Pierce, a 7-footer out of IMG. All of these guys have the potential to see some serious minutes or even start. Here are a few of the new additions with what they're looking forward to this season.
I mean, this is what you work out and dream for. I put in the hours in the gym to come to this level and for people to put the pressure on my back. I don't want to be under the radar. I want people to know that I'm one of the best freshmen in the country, because that's what I feel about myself. That's why I come here every morning at 7 a.m. So,
just being intense and, just trying to do the little things that not everybody else likes to do. Getting steals, offensive rebounds, keeping possessions alive, just guarding my assignments well, talking, and obviously making shots, because that's what I do. So.
I want to be able to make open shots and defend. That's my main goal coming in here, and just every time I get in the game, just make an impact. Whatever it is, getting rebounds, getting assists, scoring, whatever it is, I just want to make an impact every time I get in the game.
The vets, the freshmen, but every college basketball squad isn't complete without some players from the portal, the transfers. Jordan Geronimo and Matty Traore are the two headlining transfers for this roster. Traore is joining a packed group of bigs. The New Mexico State transfer will certainly need to separate himself for some solid minutes, but in my eyes, Geronimo will be filling a role similar to Patrick Emilion from last year. A do-it-all forward, heck, he can even play big man. Willard said it himself. He's messed around with some rotations with the Indiana transfer at the 5. Geronimo, though, is excited to play, but looking forward to the new scenery.
Just a new experience, I've been in Indiana for 3 years. I had my experience there. It was a good time over there. But, this is just a new scenery, new team, new people. I'm excited to play with these guys and see what we can do. So.
Alexa, a bunch of familiar faces on this roster and new additions, but I'll give you 3 players to keep an eye out for. The veterans, it's Jameer Young, the leader of this team, the head of the crew. Get ready for an all Big Ten caliber season from Young. The freshman, it has to be Jamie Kaiser. All of the eyes are going to be on DHS, that highly, highly talented recruit, but Kaiser, might see him in the starting lineup on opening night. And then the transfers, it has to be Jordan Geronimo. I think he'll be the X factor for this crew defensively, on the glass. I think he's a do-it-all guy and will really make a difference for Maryland this year.
Yeah, I mean, Ricky, I have to agree with you. I think a lot of eyes are on Deshaun, but I think Jamie Kaiser is going to shock a lot of people. I mean, he's a tall guard, he has a strong frame, and he can really shoot the ball. So I wouldn't be surprised if he brings a lot of energy off the bench or even makes it into the starting lineup.
All right, well, let's swap places here because it's time for Alexa to give us a little bit of insight on Maryland women's basketball for this upcoming season.
I mean, we have to give some love to the women's team, and I think this is a team Maryland women's basketball fans are going to love. On Media Day last week, Brenda Fries said that her and her staff believe that this year's team has a lot more depth. And you might be thinking, Alexa, this team lost 2 first-round draft picks. How could they possibly have more depth? And yes, they did lose Diamond Miller and Abby Myers, but for the first time in the first couple of years, the returners outnumber the transfers and the freshmen. So even though the Terps don't have a few players dropping 20 every game, they do have a full roster where every single member can contribute. Maryland has 4 graduate student athletes leading this year, Faith Masonis and Lavender Briggs and Brene Alexander, who are expected to bring that same surge of energy from last year's blowout against Iowa for this entire season. Also, NC State transfer Jakia Brown-Turner, who was described by Fries as someone who knows how to win. Adding to the returners is junior Cheyenne Sellers, who has been a phenomenal player for the Terps and who Fries believes will make even more of an impact leading at the point this year. Another returner who saw some valuable minutes last season, sophomore Bree McDaniel. Fries expects McDaniel to have what she called the Cheyenne Sellers jump from freshman to sophomore year. Along with adding in Brown-Turner, the Terps bring in a talented and lengthy freshman class, led by McDonald's All-American Riley Nelson, who, by the way, led the team with 23 points and 7 rebounds in their exhibition game. Here's what Brenda Fries and Faith Masonis had to say about this year's team contributing collectively.
This team knows they've got big shoes to fill, losing 2 first round WNBA draft picks in both Diamond and Abby. So this team understands it's going to be more collective and it will be by team.
I think every single person has to take on a little more responsibility, that kind of role. But I think one thing that's really important is as a team, we understand that we don't have to change who we are as players. We can continue to be the players that we are, but just be the best at that every single day. So that way we can, fill that 20 or 30 points.
Preseason rankings came out and the Terps currently sit at number 14. Maryland is coming off a run to the Elite 8. Most would think that would mean a spot in at least the top 10. But don't count out Maryland as being among the top teams in the country. We've gone through the roster and the talent that this squad has to offer. But more importantly, Maryland women's basketball has a knack for proving any doubters wrong. Last season, many doubted Fries and her team after a slew of high-profile players entered the transfer portal. But Maryland proved everyone wrong and made it to the national quarterfinals, advancing further than the year before, and finishing at number 5 in the nation. Here's what a couple players had to say about their preseason ranking.
I think it's different for some people. I mean, I feel like honestly it bothered me because, we made it to the Elite 8 and I felt like we should have been in the top 10. And I know people are concerned about, Abby and Diamond leaving, but then if you look at the year previous, then we had some departures too, and we came back and went even further than what people thought.
Last year, the same thing happened. We were ranked badly. We ended up, number 5, something like that. So, I mean, I like to say the proof is in the pudding, and we know how good we are. We know we can compete. We know the type of team we are. I think it's kind of fun going into a season having that chip on your shoulder. I mean, that underdog mentality is sometimes even better than having the top dog situation. So I think we're really excited to honestly just put our heads down, go to work, and really prove people wrong.
This is a team filled with experience, talent, and a chip on their shoulder. And with all of that, it should be an exciting season for women's basketball fans. Now, stay right where you are because our basketball talk isn't over. When we return, we do a deep dive into a sacred Maryland basketball tradition. And as always, we'll crown our Terp of the Week, Pro Terp, and recap the top 5 plays of the week. Don't go anywhere.
tell my son, I love you every single day. Now, my dad has never said that to me. Not because he doesn't love me, but because culturally it wasn't comfortable for him. Now that he's a grandfather, he says, I love you to my son every time he sees him. My advice to all the fathers out there, forget the cultural restrictions. They grow up way too fast for you to waste even a single precious moment.
I think I finally found.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, Mason.
Hey, Mason.
Got a new house. It's looking pretty cool so far. A place that I call home.
I'm teaching Louise how to cook some lasagna.
It only takes a spark to make a fire start.
Thank you.
Study, please.
I think I finally found a place to make my own. A place that I call home. This place that I call home.
Welcome back to Left Bench, brought to you by Terrapin Sports Central. I'm Ricky Podgorski here with Alexa Wootten. And Alexa, I hear that Maryland men's basketball is so eager to begin practicing that it starts at midnight of the first day.
That's right. Last week, Kevin Willard's team partook in a Maryland basketball tradition. As Ricky and I mentioned earlier, college basketball is officially upon us, and there's one way to know for sure in College Park, and that's with the time-honored tradition of Maryland's Midnight Mile. This year's men's basketball squad and the faithful student fans poured into Ludwig Field to ring in the new season. I was there to see how 50-plus years later, the event is still staying true to its start. 52 years ago, Hall of Fame Maryland coach Lefty Driesell wanted to be the first team to practice for the 1971 season. So, on the eve of the start of college basketball, Driesell had his team lined up at the stadium track. And once 12:03 a.m. hit, the Terps ran a mile. That Midnight Mile sparked a college phenomenon, Midnight Madness. Programs like Duke, Kentucky, and Michigan State began hosting events at midnight the day the season started to kick things off with fans. Napoleon Dynamite! But the Terps decided to stick with Lefty's way and keep it on the track. Thousands of students filed into Ludwig Field on October 17th to run the Midnight Mile with the 2023-2024 men's basketball team.
It's one thing to watch basketball, but to feel like connected with the team and the student body's just all together and you're all rooting somebody on, it's just so fun.
And the players get something special out of it too.
You know, it's really cool being able to be a part of that history. You know, it's a great experience having all the fans out here every year. You know, upholding that tradition is great.
You really get to meet them. A lot of people that they know of you, but you've never met them before, and they say they're going to come support and watch the games, and it just makes me feel good as a player.
So when the clock strikes 12:03, it's time for the Terps to get to work. For Terrapin Sports Central, I'm Alexa Wootten. You know, Ricky, I was there, and I was asking a bunch of students. You know, a lot of other colleges, they have these big events, they have dunk contests in the arenas, like fans watching from the stands, and I said, would you rather us have that? And she said, you know, no, I like meeting the fans, I like interacting with them, I can watch them in the stands anytime. This is a chance to really be with the team.
I think a lot of people, though, might want it inside. You looked a little cold there, so did a lot of those players and fans, but, you know, it's such a great tradition, you can't take it away from Ludwig Field, nothing like a cold night for the Midnight Mile. Now, only 5 Maryland volleyball players had eclipsed 3,000 career assists during their time in the Maryland Red and Black. This past weekend, a 6th player added their name to the record books. Cindy Dowler etched her name into Maryland history, recording her 3,000th assist Friday night. The senior setter recorded 40 assists against Illinois Friday and added 34 more against Iowa on Saturday. But no assist was as big as her assist on a Samantha Schnitta kill in the 3rd set against the Fighting Illini. Congrats to Cindy on being crowned our Terp of the Week.
Maryland football standout Deonte Banks was a first-round pick for the New York Giants in this year's draft. And he grabbed a first this past Sunday. And it's not just our pro Terp. Banks has played all 7 games for the Giants. In their game against the Washington Commanders, the rookie cornerback grabbed his first career interception. On 2nd and 2, Sam Howell looked to take a shot and find Jahan Dotson. but Banks was able to pick off the pass. What a play by Banks, and hopefully only the first of many. Congrats to Deontay on being our Pro Terp of the week.
All right, Alexa, big weekend of Maryland athletics in College Park, so let's see who made the biggest plays this past weekend.
Let's start it off with Stephen Capetti's goal. Luke Van Hukelum does a backheel pass to St. Martin, who launches it in, and Capetti is there to finish it off. Let's see that one more time. Backheel pass from Van Hukelum over to St. Martin, looks to launch. Stephen Capetti is able to get a toe on it and tap it right in.
Right place, right time for Capetti there. On to number 4, and it's Hannah Boss with the goal. Swings that club right around. It looks like 4 defenders into the back of the cage. Hannah Boss, number 4.
Next up is Liz Beardsley. I mean, she's had a phenomenal season all along, and this has to be one of her best saves. Zoe Tiger looks to find Abby Eller in the box, and there is Beardsley. She says, "Not today, Indiana."
On to number 2, back to field hockey. It's Margot Lawn getting through the entire defense for the score here on her senior day. Lawn, I mean, unbelievable stuff. 3 defenders and the goalie. What a shot from Lawn.
Now, we talked about it. Sydney Dowler got her 3,000th career assist. In this play, she sets up Samantha Schnitta for the kill, and she's able to get the point for the Terps, winning this match. Now, Ricky, I mean, 3,000 assists. That's an incredible accomplishment.
And at number 1, our top plays. Terp of the week, 3,000 assists. Quite the little reel there for Sydney Dowler. So that'll do it for this edition of The Left Bench. We'll be taking a brief break next week to celebrate Halloween, but we'll be back the following week when Alex Gary and Alana Mutnick return to the desk.
Until then, be sure to keep up with all of TSC's coverage on X, Instagram, YouTube, and online at TerrapinSportsCentral.com.
We'll see you next time.